Welcome to the Sacred Fame podcast, everyone. My name is Kasia Rachfall, and I have a very special guest for you today, my son, Braeden Rachfall, who is an actor and a super intriguing young man. And I'm just so happy to be chatting with him. So Braeden decided to be an actor at age 11, and he's had some really fun experiences while he was in school. And now that he's graduated, he's had even more fun experiences. And so I want to dive in somewhere in the middle there.
Okay. I think to start, I wanted to act after I met a couple homeschooling friends, and we were chatting about it, thinking, I think Jumanji, the remake of Jumanji, came out around the time that we were like, hey, that would be kind of fun to be in that environment. And then, over the years, they kind of hummed and hawed about it, but I was still like, I really think that this is the way that I want to go, because it's way too niche not to explore it. And then, in high school, the little bit of school that I had, I met some more people who, albeit they didn't want to perform, but definitely could have if they really wanted to. And then some awesome teachers that just kind of go for it, whatever.
Yeah. And so just a little bit of background on Braeden. Braeden was homeschooled for 6 years, starting at, I believe, grade 4 is when...
grade 4 is when you guys yanked me out.
Yanked him out of school and decided, you know what? Let's give these kids, so him and his sister, just a different experience of education and the ability to pursue their passions and learn about life and learn, the necessities of whatever's, needed to be successful in a different way. And it was an experiment very much, but we were part of an amazing, amazing homeschooling community. And it wasn't until high school age came that both Braeden and his sister decided to go into high school to have that experience. And I thought both of you did such an amazing job. And I was impressed with you, especially Braeden, because you went into grade 11. So you basically had, at that point, 2 years, which got shortened then by the pandemic to basically a year and a half.
Yeah.
But you went into school, you joined the drama department, and right off the bat, you got a fairly leading role in the musical they were doing. So talk to us about what were you thinking, and how did you believe yourself up on that stage?
I don't think I was really thinking, but it was like, okay, let's go for lead, because it's there. Anybody can take it. It's high school, all the doors are open. And there were some very, very good people. One person in particular whom I idolized quite during my grade 11 year. And so, yes, we didn't get lead. He definitely deserved it, but it wasn't fit for him. But being able to perform with him and explore that chemistry was a lot of fun. And then progressing through the next year musical, got to play lead villain and explore that avenue, which there were some written scenes that we ended up cutting, unfortunately, because they were pushing boundaries. I didn't want to cut them, but unfortunately directors said yes. And then just before COVID hit, we were going to do Shakespeare, and I'm sad that we didn't, because that's another avenue that I want to explore professionally. So just being able to get to do all the different parts and see kind of how it's the same but different every time.
I remember that performance. So just to give you more background, Braeden played Scar in the musical performance of The Lion King. And I remember hearing stories from you and your friends that teachers and parents who saw that performance were saying, you've ruined Scar for me. I can't watch the movie anymore because I just see your face. And what was that like? Because that was really, I would think, the first taste of being truly seen and like famous in your school, or at least.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the teachers who saw, you know, if I go back, they'll be like, hey, how's it going? And some of the teachers, like, I've never taken their classes, you know, chemistry I never took, or physics I dropped out day one. But they're still like, so how's it going? You know, what's new in the life? It's kind of a neat experience because, you know, as a teacher, they get recognized based off of what they teach their students and how much the students retain, which is entirely up to the student themselves. But being recognized as a student for the professional work that you want to do is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because you're treated differently then. You're treated less of a student and more as an equal. Like, obviously, I still have stuff to learn, but you're treated in that professional environment like a professional.
Yeah, that's
which means a lot more than just, oh, you know, you did a good job in the school play. So that's how that feels.
That's really amazing that you would recognize it from that perspective. And one of the other things that I want to weave into this is you took karate for a very long time.
Yes.
From age 4 all the way to when you got your black belt at, I believe you were 16. And so how do you believe that discipline and that level of really knowing who you are, knowing your body really well, and having that mental capacity, how do you think that has played into your performances and how you show up as, you know, a young adult now?
On stage, body aware is really useful because everybody sees all of you all the time. But okay, going back to the start of karate, as a young kid, it's just, oh my God, I get to kick and punch. Like, this is so wicked. And then you grow up, and when you're going for black belt, you don't get, at least the school that I studied at, you don't get black belt unless you finish a written exam, a practical, and I think it's just written and practical, but there is a little like je ne sais quoi that the teachers look for. And it is very evident during the practical who understands it and who doesn't. And it's not something verbally said. It's more of like a kind of like a spiritual thing, but less spiritual because it's very much tied to physical. And in the group that I graded with, 2 or 3 of us had it, you know, out of the 5 that graded. But just kind of digging for, you know, whether you can see it or not in whatever, dig for something that, you know, may not be there. Like, what is the spiritual aspect of being a janitor? Like, you know, what's that little something that as a hotel janitor, you know, or on stage, what's the one thing that you can find that other people might not see, but they're like, damn, that was really good. And it's that little something that I can't explain because, you know, you having practiced the martial arts as well, haven't gotten there yet.
Not yet.
But could absolutely do so.
And you've been a janitor, you've done some other jobs en route to your career because you know, you do need finances in order to finance your schooling and whatnot. And so I love to hear that you're applying that, and I see it in you applying that to every job you take and every role that you either audition for or you actually end up playing.
Yeah.
And so let's talk more about who are your role models, because you've definitely had some amazing teachers and met some really interesting people throughout your life, both because, you know, you were homeschooled and so we were part of a different community. But who would you say has influenced you, and what was it about them?
Like, okay, influenced like that I know and have met, or people whom
both,
like
both
you've never met but like the work that they do?
I would say both. Both are on the table. You have some amazing teachers you know, and lots that you don't know.
Amazing teachers that I know, definitely Sensei Sharp. He's words fail when you try to describe this gentleman. Yeah, specifically watching him, and then like there's something so fluid and rigid about it, and it's terrifying but also so pretty. Ms. Scoggs from high school, and Ward and Miss Ward and Miss Chelsea being like the no shit kind of taken and give it to you straight, regardless of potentially how crude or vulgar it may sound in the moment. You know, telling you that if you don't do this, you will absolutely fail their class and not get enough credits to graduate. Like, they'll tell it straight to your face. And however you take that, that's up to you. And then people whom I've never met, I want to say Jack Nicholson.
Okay.
And I don't know if he's a good human being or not, but the work that he does is absolutely brilliant. And I don't think I've seen a movie with him that I haven't enjoyed. Not just because he's in it, but like it's genuinely just a treat to watch him explore the character, regardless of what the character is. You know, how maniacal do you want to take a crime lord? You know, where does the cards end? Yeah.
So you bring up an interesting point about being a good human. I know that's something that we have talked about at length at home because
extensively,
because yes, it when you have influence, and that's part of the whole fame idea, you know, just fame by itself is you are very much seen and heard, and people see all of you, whatever you put out there, and sometimes even things that aren't true. And so there is a lot of spinning happening around someone's reputation or around what they do or don't do or who they are. And the concept of fame that I'm playing around with, the idea of sacred fame, is really coming at it and becoming an influencer and becoming seen and heard from a heart place, from a place of contribution, not just being seen with purpose, I guess. And I remember you said once to me that life without ambition would be really boring.
Yes.
And so
I definitely have said that.
I love that quote. And yet there's that whole idea of, okay, so being ambitious is great, but how do you do it without being an ass, being, you know, stepping on people to get what you want? How do you marry the two to be a good human?
Okay. This is going to sound awful, but it's kind of like a board game.
Okay.
Where, at least the way that I played board games, there are no friends. Like, regardless if you're family or my girlfriend or whoever, like, I will play to win.
Yes.
And nothing can stop that because top spot is always available, right? But, you know, you have to approach ambition kind of the same way as, like, everybody's a friend to each other, but everybody is also, you know, potential competition if you look at it that way. And, you know, by merit, it could be friendly competition because you're all working for the same thing. And so you're happy for each other, whoever wins, whoever loses, you know. But you can't, like being an ass is like looking at somebody's cards and cheating in a game like poker. Or, you know, or the game Dominion, which I absolutely love. I play very loose all the time. People pretty much see my cards the entire time. You know, I don't care because it's a fun game, and whether they see your cards or not, you play your turn regardless. So, you know, how can you in life play your turn regardless of people being able to see whatever and you not like cheating? Right? Does that make sense?
Well, I get it because I know you're a big game buff, and gosh, trying to win against you is difficult because of your mind for strategy. But I like the analogy because to me, someone can see your cards means you're transparent and authentic and sincere.
Yeah. And people recognize that, especially like the last movie that I was on in September. Oh my God, it was only September. People recognize, like, I was a camera second, meaning you've got like director of photography, you've got the operator, you have the first who pulls the focus because the cameras don't autofocus like a smartphone. And then you have the second who is the assistant and running filters and lenses and, overall keep making sure that they have what they need. And marking the actors' spots. And that is a lot to do because when they need something yesterday. And it's stressful. Absolutely it is. But you do the best you can. And I probably wasn't qualified because in a union environment, you need like a solid 2 months of training as a trainee before you can even think about being a second. But Kelowna's nice and ghetto in the professional environment wherein you don't need a ton of training to be able to get into a certain environment, which has absolutely benefited me beyond compare. So that being said, people see that you're trying. And if you're standing up, if you're looking around for work to do, if you have stuff prepared, if you're waiting for marks, you better be standing next to the first AD with your tape stringer ready to throw down some marks. Or, if you're on radio, keep an ear open for your operator who's calling for, an ND3 or an ND6 to darken the scene or whatever it be, right? So you're listening to all the chatter all the time.
So being present, being ready.
Being present is, yeah. And people see that because not everybody is.
Yeah. So that's a very clean perspective, I would say, on hard work, because when I would, as I think of my own definition of hard work, sometimes it may seem like being either long hours or laborious or intense focus for extended periods of time, or doing things that you're not sure what's going to be put in front of you. Can I handle it? But as I hear you define it, that's old me perspective. I know that now hard work is more like what you define it, where it's preparation and just steadfastness and being where you are, doing the thing you're doing, not thinking 15 steps ahead or
yeah. And that's not to say that you can't do that. Like, you absolutely could think 15 steps ahead, but maybe in step 1 or 2, you don't know what's going to happen. Right.
But not at the cost of being present. And I know that's where I've been guilty of like overthinking, and people who know me know that I would tend to overthink and then I'd miss what's right in front of me. So I love that you already have that focus. And
like long hours and stuff like that. On a film set, you work anywhere from 12 to 15 hours. That's just mandatory. So you get used to the long hours. They feed you and whatnot. Like, you're taken care of. But it's long hours in the sense that you don't really ask when it's going to end. You just accept your fate. And so whether you're prepared for it or not, that question doesn't come to mind. So I think regardless if you don't think you're qualified for something, or, obviously if you're a doctor, you should have gone to med school. You should be qualified to operate on but maybe it's your first surgery, right? Like, that was my first position as camera for the whole set. Absolutely was not qualified. But made it through, and people respected that. Because you were there and were willing to learn, through the whole... Because if you screwed up, somebody would let you know. And then you're like, okay, well, got to remember not to do that next time. Yeah. So I don't think you have to be like totally prepared all the time, but prepared enough to accept responsibility for any actions may cause.
I love that. I love that. And talk to me more about, because you've been really, you've definitely acted.
Yes.
And you've also been willing to do all the other things. You've been a production assistant, you've been a camera assistant. And why are you open to doing that instead of just single-mindedly going after being on the stage or on camera?
Superficially, I need money.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And it's easy to get into. That's superficial. Bit deeper, you meet all the people who can potentially help you. Perhaps the prop manager wants to direct. Perhaps the key PA wants to open his own production company. So you're just like, hey, if you open something and you're looking for somebody, keep me in mind. You get their phone number or their email and you chat every once in a while just to keep the names flowing and whatnot. And then done is done, perhaps one day. Because at 19, it's a long one day.
It definitely can feel that way. You've got so much time.
So...
And that's I remember you telling me the story of that's how you met one of the stunt coordinators, I believe is the name.
Yes.
So tell us about that, because that's really cool. I want you to share.
Okay. There's two. So the first one that I met, who I didn't know was a stunt coordinator at the time, I was doing volunteer background work. And the one thing that I learned is never do the work you love for free, ever. Just... he's the one who told me that, or maybe it was somebody else. Regardless, I was told that, and that's the one thing that I took away from that. But I met him, took a picture with him because he was a chill guy, and then didn't think anything of it. Started, growing up and going to school, and then graduating school and getting a job, and then eventually making my way into landscaping to pulling rose bushes at this this really swanky house in an upper neighborhood in Kelowna. And the wife came out, or his wife came out, sorry. And then he came out and introduced, and we were talking about just film and stuff like that, because it wasn't a hard job. So we had a little bit of time to chat. He told me that he knew somebody who's been in the film industry forever and knows stunt. So I was like, okay, long shot, but if you could give me his name or at least connect us on Facebook, and lo and behold, it worked out, and met him in Vancouver, went for coffee, and maybe a month later, the other guy who I took a picture with when I was 13 also is a stunt coordinator. So just meeting people in the industry doing oddball work. Yeah. You
just never know where it's going to take you.
No, you never know.
That's awesome. Well, and you love to chat with people and connect with people. So that's, you got to be willing to open your mouth.
Yes.
Stuff. You can't just be a person against the wall, not connecting. I think connection is so important. And so then you've decided, because I remember when you were in high school, you were like, I don't want to go to college right away. You decided it's not my avenue. I'm going to figure things out in other ways. And then you ended up actually taking some, I would say, college level courses, acting specific, which was really fun. And then now you've decided you're going to
school specifically for stunt.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what are you excited about with that?
The level of material that we're going to cover, it goes from falls, drops, burns, rope work, ratchets, stunt driving, weapons handling, more combat training, because I can apparently never get enough of it. So just, and it's only a month long, but there are 8 to 9 hour days of nothing but shenanigans and, throwing myself on the ground. So
that'll be fun.
I think just the overall level of work that's going to be had.
And so tell me about what drives you, because you went from no school, I don't want to do school, to then going no, I want to do this school. Oh, I'm going to go knock on this door 15 times before it opens. And then I'm going to go have coffee with this person. what is it inside you that makes you pursue things rather than just sitting, waiting for things to come to you?
That probably has to be from my extensive experience with people in general. And I've cut a lot of people who are like, oh, this would be fun to do. Okay, why not do it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, sitting and waiting. Or specifically like with people who struggle with anxiety, which, you know, I don't care whether you struggle with anxiety or not. I'm sure everybody has at one point.
Yeah, definitely.
But if they're, oh, I can't do that because I have anxiety, you might very well have to do this when you're an adult out of school.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to move past that? You know, pick your socks up and figure it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely there's help that can be.
Or, you know, and knocking on doors is like, at one point they're going to have to open it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, otherwise, or, you know, just give me a job and pay me to shut me up. Like,
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
eventually people just give you things regardless, but you have to be like respectful, responsible, and tenacious. You can't just be a dick about it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you this. You've obviously growing up with a mom like me and your dad and the friends that we have in the community that we are part of, you've really walked the line between both science, spirituality, practicality, and magic and
Yeah.
you know, all the fun things we've, as a family, as a community of friends and people we hang out with, we've explored all of that. Do you think that has helped shape you, or has it confused you in some way? Has it given you more tools, or?
Absolutely, it's been confusing, and it has been a struggle because, you know, when you meet somebody and you're like, hey, they're kind of cool, and then you kind of struggle with them like a month later, like maybe they're not so cool, like they're not so much fun anymore.
Mm.
You know, saying no to that, it's kind of lonely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I have friends, but I don't have very many friends, and they're not available all the time when I want to hang out. Well, but I know that the people who I've cut out would absolutely be able to hang out like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And or like struggling with the concept of belief and religion, like that was a thing for a month or so, where I was like, you know, I've believed in universe juice for whatever, like however long, you know, I want to try something else, and then looking into it and realizing that the basis of some religions is your existence is suffering, and the only way to get out is through this deity or what have you, or meditation and whatnot, which is fine, but the basis that it's built on is suffering, which doesn't sound very much fun. That's not to knock any religion, because they're absolutely all valid. Or, you know, like I was never a super sciencey person, but you know, being able to theorize and hypothesize that whatever, and yeah.
So it I can see the confusion, definitely, how it's playing a part. Do you find that you're able to make your own way to what represents you, or who you are, or what you resonate with, because you're not aligned with any particular?
Yeah, I think it's easier to find like personal identity because you've kind of grown up having to figure out who you are, because you didn't have people to tell you who you were. And I think that's where, you know, being so young, I can only really associate with high school. That's where people get confused is, oh, you know, you should be this, you should be that, you know, go to school, be a doctor, be a lawyer, you know. I'm sure some people absolutely do love that, as is evident because we have doctors, we have lawyers. But it's the people who I think get told that they should do this, do it, don't like it, and then are stuck with something that they've spent 4 or 5 years learning that now don't want to do anything with.
Yeah.
So I think it's being able to navigate that and find who you are without, oh, tell me who I should be, but that's not who I'm gonna be out of spite or, you know, just to prove a point. And I think that's another thing is like doing something just to prove a point. Like, oh, you can't get into, watch me. Watch me get into that. You know? And I've got some friends who are like that, you know, who egg, not like egg on in the natural sense, but like challenge almost, or like, you know, put something in front and then it's like, okay, you know, why not? Sure.
I guess as long as you know the difference and you can discern between, you know, personal safety and
that obviously comes with
damage to body or someone, or being smart about it and courageous for sure.
But being smart and like finding yourself and not letting people tell you who you should be, because that's not who you want to be.
Right. And that was really one of the main reasons we chose to go the homeschooling route, even though it was an experiment. I think it really paid off because you and your sister are both amazing human beings, and I'm excited to see what you contribute. So as an actor, whenever you end up, you know, because, you know, stunt work I think is so exciting, and I think you have the type of mind where you could definitely be in directing or really any aspect of the movie, the filmmaking, production or whatever. How do you want to contribute through all the things that you want to pursue?
I think arts is super important, and it's kind of tossed to the side in favor of, you know, social studies or math or science or whatever. But, you know, I think the basis of science was rooted in philosophy, which is more of an art form than a science to begin with, because it's the art of conversation. And I think as an actor, exploring not only conversation, but identity as well all the time is where I'd like to take that and make it okay to talk about things, to explore things, because in today's society, we're all so hushed up and nervous to say things on our mind. And I know that your work is all about exploring like the true self, which is just another root of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
that's a really beautiful way of putting that. And so given that this podcast is all about saying the shit you want to say, is there something that you haven't said to the world that you'd like the world to know?
I don't think so, but I don't know. I'm gunning for the top. Like, just wait for me. So.
So what's your big dream? Where do you want to end up?
A-list. I think just straight A-list, you know, where I don't have to look for work. I can take work when I want it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you shared with me a few days or weeks ago, I can't remember, about your desire to give back to, I love how close your dream is to you. I love that. To give back to kids, especially young adults and teenagers. So tell us about that as a final thought.
I think eventually, once I've built up all the material wealth to not have to work, and like my eventual family and obviously current family is set up, I'd like to open a production company where people can come and explore and produce what they want and have it be recognized.
And have the equipment to do it with, right? Not have to spend people, but just have
to have it look professional and have it be of that quality, because camera gear is expensive.
Yeah,
so
that's beautiful. I love that because it gives people the opportunity if they want it.
Yeah,
I love that.
Which is important.
Yeah, you've had so many people help you along the way. And like you said, you've been ready and you've been present enough to notice and to learn and to take responsibility, which is key. But I love your dream, and I love, thank you for sharing some of your philosophy with us and how you look at the world.
No problem.
Who's inspired you. And I can't wait to see where you go.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If this has inspired you, there's lots more conversation coming. We are an independent show, so I would appreciate your support by either subscribing on YouTube or leaving us a review on iTunes and connecting. Thanks so much, and I will see you next time.